Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be working on some storage for the back of my toilet, and now because this is a wet area, I'm going to be using corrugated plastic to do my little storage unit. My toilet is very small, so I'm going to be cutting my little piece of corrugated plastic, and the measurements that I've got are 24 centimeters. 43 centimeters and 24 centimeters, and I'm just going to be cutting that to size and scoring along those lines. I've got my piece cut to size and I've scored it so that it goes around like that. And now what I'm going to do is mark exactly where the toilet pipes go, and I'm going to cut that section half out and leaving the other side intact. I've made a template out of cardboard to try and conceal as much of the pipes as I can, and now I'm going to be taking my template and putting it onto my corrugated plastic and cutting that design out. I've cut my little piece of plastic corrugated and it fits very nicely around the toilet. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm using a 3mm plastic corrugated sheet, and I've got press button toilets at the top there, so I've just taken a piece and cut it to the size of my wall and then cut the disc out like that. And that's what I'm going to be using for my little top shelf. And now I'm going to just cover this with contact paper. Because this is a toilet area and toilets have a tendency of springing a leak every now and then, this is not going to be a permanent fixture that you can't remove, so I'm going to be taping this so that also you can just lift this up to be able to place your blue bombs in the top of the toilet, and this one can just pull out so you can get to all the pipes underneath at the back there. I'm going to be using the same marble contact paper that I used in toilet for all the other little pieces I made. I've covered my piece, and now I've cut the hole in the center for my toilet flushes, and I've cut them at little triangles like that so that I can glue them underneath. I've stuck all the little pieces at the back, so now my circle is nice and neat. I need to make a lip for the top of my cupboard over here because that's a little bit too thin for the cupboard to rest on. So I've taken another piece of the corrugated plastic and I've scored in the corner like that, so that when it folds over I've got a little piece like that. So now I'm just measuring it over here to see how far to do this fold. So I'm going to do the same thing just over there, and I'm going to be making a lip for that side as well. So I've scored all along my piece, and now I'm going to be taking my scissors and just cutting this small section here. So I'm cutting through on this one just to the line so that I can fold it, this piece under. That one will go under and that one will go over, and then I'll just glue the pieces together. So the corrugated plastic leaves quite a big gap in between it, so you just be aware of that. I've got my lips made, and now all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be gluing it along the top, and I'm going to secure them inside as well with hot glue, but I'm not going to be gluing them to the side supports because, as I said, this one's got to be able to move if the toilet happens to spring a leak, and I've done the same on the other side. So I'm going to be gluing those in. I'm going to be recessing the lips the same width, so I've got a small piece of the cardboard and I'm placing it underneath so that I can see where to glue this, because that's where the door is actually going to be landing. So the door will close like that, and there's going to be velcros put over there for holding it in place. So just make sure that you've got a little recess so that it lies flush. I've cut small pieces at the side where you have to depress the toilet to take the cistern lid off. So I've done that on both sides. To cover up all this ugliness here, I'm going to be using what's called a craft strap, and it's just a beautiful kind of rope, and I'm going to be gluing that all underneath there like that, all the way across. I also placed some of the gold rope around my flushing unit. I'm cutting my door out of the corrugated plastic, and I'm going to be using just the corrugated plastic for the hinge as well. So I'm marking in by 10 centimeters. Now the distance from my door is 26 centimeters, but my walls are very uneven, so that I'm giving it an extra 2 centimeters. So from the edge to where I'm going to be cutting is 38 centimeters, and I'm going to be scoring along the 10 centimeter line, and the height of it is 73 centimeters, but I'm giving myself a little bit extra and cutting it at 74 centimeters. I've scored my line at 10 centimeters, so it looks like that, and I'm going to be fixing that all up with some ribbon. And now I'm going to be flipping it over, and I'm going to be using this marble gaffer tape, and I'm going to tape the whole piece at the back there. I've cut it all, and it's fitting very nicely, and now I'm going to attach it to the wall after I've decorated this piece, because it's a very awkward position to work in here. I've cut 5 centimeters off at the top here, just so that it doesn't interfere with my lip, and at the bottom as well I've cut that little shelf size off. And now I'm going to be lining it all up so that I can mark exactly where to cut the door. So that's lying quite nice and flat against the wall. So I'm going to just cut that small piece off. To neaten up the edges, I've got this gold gaffer tape, and all I've done is I've taken some of the contact paper that's got the grease side, and I've placed it on there, and I'm going to cut 1 centimeter strips from that, and I've marked my little piece. I'm going to be giving that little bit so I can wrap it around so that it neatens this section off. I've got my gold tape on, and now I'm taking some of the contact paper, which is the marble one that I've used in the bath, in the toilet for everything else, and I'm going to be marking in by 5 centimeters all the way around and putting that in the center. Sorry, my battery went flat, so what I've done is I've just taken some of this 5mm foil tape, and I've put 2 strips around it, and I've just placed it in there to see how it's going to look, and it's fitting really nicely. I'm just going to be using hot glue to glue this panel to the wall. I'm using these strip magnets instead of velcros for my closures, so I've got 2 pieces, and I'm just going to be gluing them one onto that small piece there and one onto the door. I'm going to be using these 25mm crystal knobs, and the screws are really large, and our little piece of corrugated plastic is only a 3mm. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the display screws. So I'm going to just cut this whole section out and use the little screw that's behind this one. So as you can see, it's quite long, so it'll go through and then still be able to hold the little crystal ball. I've cut them off, and now I'm going to glue the entire piece of cardboard behind as well to give it support. I'm using a soldering iron to just poke the hole in. Now when you're putting your doorknob on and you're going to be gluing this little piece on, make sure that you've got clearance of the magnets behind it. As the corrugated plastic is so thin, I'm going to be using this really thick cardboard, and the size of the little gap that I've got between the toilet and the wall is only 26 centimeters wide and 22 centimeters long. So I'm just going to cut the cardboard out and then a piece of corrugated plastic. I've got my corrugated plastic, and my cardboard, both cut to size, and now I'm just going to take some hot glue and glue this one onto there, and then I'm going to be covering it with some contact paper. For the legs of my units, I'm going to be using these little tiny bottles that I was given, and what I'm doing now is I'm taking them because I'm going to be using the skirtings or mouldings for the back supports, and I'm just marking these little bottles, and then I'm going to cut the top section off and then fan them out so that I've got something to glue on. I've got my little bottles all cut like that, and now I'm taking them outside and I'm going to be using this gold spray paint, and I'm going to be spray painting them all. The little feet that I made are all dry now, and I'm going to be gluing them on, so I'm going to be trimming these small pieces off here that are sticking out. So I'm going to be gluing one that side and one that side, and I'm doing the same on the other side. To make my drawers, I'm going to be using these 2-litre soft drink bottle boxes, and I'm going to be cutting the top off, and at the 26 centimetre mark I'm going to be just scoring along the sides and the bottom, and then I'm going to fold the bottom upwards and the sides inward so that I've got a wee little box, and I'm going to be making 2 of them. I've cut the top of the box and I've scored it at 25.5 centimeters because that's how big my box is. So I've scored it all the way down, along and up the other side, and then I've just cut the corners like that so that I can fold the box in. So I'm going to actually be folding the bottom up and then collapsing my 2 sides in. And now, because the side is a bit uneven here, I'm going to be taking a spare piece of cardboard and just filling that so that I've got a smooth surface on this side, and the same on the other side because it's got a bit of a gap. So I'm going to be filling this section and the small little sections on the side, so I've got a smooth box to work with. I've cut all the little pieces like that, and now I'm just going to be gluing them all in with some hot glue, and I've done both boxes. Before I glue my box together, I'm going to be using this vinyl adhesive. It's just some spare that somebody gave me, so I'll be using it. Now it's like a wood grain, and I'm going to be covering the inside of the box. The easiest way to pull the contact paper apart is to place one piece on the front and one on the back, and then you just pull and it comes off, and then just remove the pieces. To make the faces of the drawers, I've got one of my drawers in a little container, and now I'm taking a piece of the corrugated plastic and I'm going to line it up with the bottom of the drawer like that, and then I'm going to mark it just under the gold piece there and cut it off, and then I'm going to cut this into 2 equal portions. I'm doing the exact same design on the drawers, and what I've done is I've taped them together over here so that the pattern is identical on both of them, that they're all lining up with each other. I've got this wood trim which is 2 centimeters wide, and I'm going to be cutting out 16 pieces at 20.5 centimeters. I'm just going to be using my drop saw to do that. I'm going to be using these timber screws, and these ones are 25 millimeters, so they're just small ones like that. And what I'm doing now is taking 2 pieces, putting one on top of the other like that, and I'm going to do pilot hole drills between, just using 2 holes and drilling through both pieces of wood. I've marked my drill so that it has got the right depth for me. I've marked my wood in the place so that it goes directly through the bottom, so just make sure you line up your wood so that you're getting it to go through the bottom piece. I've taped my wood together so it doesn't slip while I'm drilling. I'm just going to put a screw in temporarily so that it can hold it together, because I've got to countersink all these screws. And now it makes it much easier to drill the next holes. And now I'm just countersinking so that the screw lies flat. And then just do all 16 pieces like that. I'm going to be putting my supports for my shelf, for my drawers in. So I've got two silicone and glue, one at the bottom. So I've put my drawer in, and now I'm placing one at the top. And just make sure that you level before you put them in. So I've got one that side and one that side. So I'm going to just glue them in and use silicone because I can't screw into the toilet. I've got my shelving in. Normally, if you didn't have your boxes that were so small, the reason why I've got two of these is because my boxes are too small for the space that I've got. But normally you would just balance the other one on top there, and then you would only need to put the top one in like that. But I've had to put two in because, as I said, my boxes are a bit small. And now we get to put the faces on the boxes. I'm going to be using silicone and hot glue to glue the face on the box like that. And I'm going to be starting at the top one so that I can line it up underneath like that. So the bottom one has got plenty of distance for me to play with, but the top has only got that little tiny bit. About 1 centimetre in on the top part of the running for the drawers, I'm going to be gluing these little tiny silver beads on. So one on each side, so just like that. I've glued the little beads in like that, and that just stops the drawers from falling out. I'm using some spare pieces of the plastic that I just cut off when I was removing pieces for the piping, and I'm going to be attaching the little crystal knobs, and I'm just going to use a soldering iron to poke through the plastic to put them onto the drawers. I bought this little picture frame because it was reduced because the mirror is cracked, and I'm just going to be removing all the pieces that I don't want, and I'm going to spray paint that gold. Many years ago we met a extremely talented street artist who cut these silhouettes out of us, and I'm going to be using those in my little picture frame, and then I'm going to just be decorating it by putting some bling on it. And I placed the picture of us when we were younger just at the back of the toilet like that. And I've just placed some of the little things that I made on top of it to make it a little bit more attractive. So that's my little air freshener. It's got the little gel balls inside, and then just a bouquet of flowers. So there's the back of my storage unit for my toilet completed. So I've got my toilet paper and toilet brush and that all hidden nicely behind the doors. And in my drawers I've got all my air fresheners and cleaning products, and in the bottom drawer I've got all the toilet cleaning stuff and my little rubbish bin. So that's the completed picture. Pretty happy with the way that's turned out. If you're thinking of going to be making this particular little unit, may I suggest that you use a slightly thicker corrugated plastic. When I redo this, I'll be using the 5mm because, as you can see, the 3 is just not good enough because it warps. So the drawers are not lining up properly and they're coming away from the top like that because they're warping. So rather use the 5mm, but it will last a lot longer. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.